Meeting to order. Kim, would you call the roll, please?
Chairman Kelly,
Here.
Commissioner Gass,
Here.
Commissioner Vatterott,
Here.
Commissioner Kelly, no, sorry. Commissioner Summers is absent. Commissioner Pigg. Here. Attorney Jones,
Here.
and Administrator Roth.
Here.
I guess we need to make sure we talk into the mics. You probably have this on the,
Yes. This is stream live on YouTube, and the audio comes through the mics. Yes.
so. All right, need a motion to approve the minutes for the last meeting, if everybody's looked over that.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Gass. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Vatterott. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes has it. Moving on to public hearing. Open up the public hearing right now. A public hearing to consider a variance application from Ken Knight requesting relief from the city's front setback requirement on property located at 1403 West St. Louis Street, Franklin County, parcel number 191-11.0-4-008-041.000, due to anticipated exceedance of the required front yard setback of not less than 25 feet as prescribed as the city's zoning regulations. Mr. Knight?
Yes.
If you want to address this first off, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Ken Knight, 988 Oak Ridge Road, Robertsville, Missouri, 63072.
Anything in particular that you would like to share with us? I mean, other than kind of self-explanatory, but
Yeah, just mainly the variance to fit a house on the lot that's odd shaped.
and I guess the lot you're talking about is it currently still owned by Matt Gerling?
I own it as of now.
You own it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because on our paperwork, it still had name of legal owner as Matt Gerling.
Yeah, it got closed week before last.
Okay. I mean, it looks to me like you just want a variance for a little bit of the corner of your house. It's going to be setting out past the 25-foot required setback.
Yeah, it's like two triangles, 3 foot by 16 foot, the left corners of the front. Because of the 20 in the back, and that lot's just odd shaped, so it makes it hard to fit anything decent on there.
Right.
Because I've left the garage on the end because of the curb already being redone from when the city went through and redid
Yeah,
it.
the curb cut actually comes off of Phelan.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I seen that.
One question, have you had the lot surveyed?
No, sir.
You-
But I did get a layout of it through Steve Myers from the city.
Yeah, well,
on
see,
it.
that probably come off the county map, and it might be right or it might not be.
Right.
It'd be better if you had it surveyed, that might show,
Well,
Where
I know
you're at.
that this that we have in front of us that come off of the Franklin County GIS system.
yeah, but that's
Yeah.
not 100% right, so.
Yeah, but I mean, it just,
It may not be.
it just shows you your dimensions of what your lot is.
Yeah, when they platted it. But see, if somebody made a mistake on the other lot, when they, surveyor or something could have
Correct.
messed up a little bit, so that's why I was wondering if you had it surveyed.
Any other questions for Mr. Knight?
Not this time, no.
Please do.
Can you talk to the board a little bit more about what makes this parcel unique and the odd shape of it and why it's a hardship for you and why you need this variance?
Because the lot if you're looking from the St. Louis Street, the left side, 65 foot. So you take 25 off of there and 25 off, or 20 off the back, you're down to, that's 45 foot, you're down to 20 foot and being a slight angle at, let's see, it was 65, like 85 on the right side, on the St. Phelan Street side. It's just, you end up with a very small piece of ground that you can use to build a home on. You know what I mean? Because just with one side 65 and the other side's 85. It's, by the time you take it off the short side, you've done restricted so much on putting a house in there that fits city guidelines for minimum square footage, a 3-bedroom house for me and my boys to live in.
So Steve, is there a front yard setback on both St. Louis and on Phelan?
Right, yeah, because it's on the corner.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, if I didn't have the 25-foot setback on the Phelan side, I could go that way a
Shift it
few
over.
feet. But
Right.
I'm trying to keep what I can. And like I said, it's just 2 little triangles of the house.
Yeah. Thank you, I just wanted to get it on the record.
And to push it back, you would be infringing upon the 20-foot rear setback.
Correct, which would be encroaching on the house behind me and leaving 20 foot in the back, just so the kids got somewhere to play in the backyard for whatever.
And there's not enough room to skew it neither, is there?
No.
I do have a question. So, other than these front setbacks, you meet the setbacks between homes?
Yes, I got 20 on the back, 25 on the St. Louis side. The left side, which is considered the side yard's 10. I've got plenty that way, but that's the small side of the property lot.
Gotcha, okay. So, and you've met fire code other than the front yard setback?
Yeah, and that's just, if you can see on the picture that the sketch he provided, he's talking about a couple triangles there and, the offsets that he has there that would be sticking out a little bit.
And it still allows for plenty of greenery otherwise?
Correct.
Yeah, and probably from the curb line, what's he got, Ed? Probably 35 or
Well,
36?
you don't know, the curb line's not the property line.
I know, but
Yeah.
I mean, from actual curb line though, where you're talking grass space, you probably have another 10 or 15 feet of grass space between the
Well, just-
property line and
Just
that.
depends on where that
Right.
line falls. you know.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna be back a little bit, maybe not too much.
Any other questions for Mr. Knight?
No.
All right, you could sit down for a minute and I'll open it up to people in the audience. I know that Mr. Reed, I have a card from you, so stay back there because I know you've been sick.
Whoa,
Brad Reed, 116 Janie Lane. I live 2 houses basically from this. I came up 2 years ago, same thing. Our lots in there were done 60 years ago, 70 years ago. I asked for a 5-foot side setback, which actually encroached. But we have homes that are within 4 feet of each other in our subdivision. It's not out of the realm of some of the homes. So you guys granted mine. I put a lot of money into my house, and I made it fantastic for the city, and this has been a vacant piece of property. I don't know if y'all remember, but Larry and Betty Schneider owned it. It was a mobile home. It burned down. They lost their 2 girls in it. This is the first time anything's been done with that lot, so it's a huge improvement to us. So I would just like to say that I have no problems or issues with it.
Okay.
And thank you guys for letting me do what I did. It helped us immensely.
Any other comments? One more time. Any comments? Mr. Roth, do you have anything to say?
I really don't. Obviously, Steve Myers is sick tonight. He's out, and he prepared the board packet. He prepared the staff report. You all have a copy of it. And I think it's been rather thoroughly covered tonight. The lot size meets our requirements, frontage, side setbacks are in compliance. The only issue is that front corner. The double frontage, or the corner frontage lot, is really the kind of the cause of this, if you will. So, yeah, I mean, Steve did note in his report, and it's accurate, if you were to, a strict interpretation of the code provisions here could be the basis of a denial. But also, we always defer to the public hearing process. And then, past practice, frankly, is, we have rather frequently granted these types of variances. So we don't have any objection to it. But I think the Board of Adjustment should know that, the facts, the way the facts of the case, if you will, the board could say no, sorry. Of course, on the other hand, the board could grant it as well.
One question for Mr. Knight. What if you skewed that house just a little bit and took that off the side yard setback?
I don't quite understand what you're saying.
Well, if you twisted that house just a little bit, instead of taking that 3 feet, 3 feet and 2.5 feet off the front on the street side, take it off the back side.
It goes into the setback for the backyard, the 20-foot setback, because when you turn it,
Then the whole house sets back 3 feet into that instead of just 2 corners.
And
Well, no, you twist the house a little bit.
Doesn't work like that, Ed.
it's not enough. I drew with it. I put them, it was all to
Even-
scale, and I took it on my workbench and I moved it every way, and
Couldn't?
I couldn't get it to fit.
yeah, and even if you, if you skewed it back, then you're going to be encroaching on the rear setback.
Correct.
Well, it'd be better to
this-
encroach on the rear, though, than it would be the front.
And
And this layout is to where they have the driveway coming in for your garages. It fits
From
the best.
Phelan's side, correct. Because like I said, since the city already did all that street work, there was no reason to cut a driveway out, to cut another one in.
well, and it looks to me like, Mr. Knight, that you kind of have it square with Phelan Street because you can't square anything off of St. Louis Street.
Correct. I mainly just went off of the,
And then, actually, when I just sitting here running the numbers in my head, that you're gonna be 21 feet off of the west property line at 64.5 feet. About every 21, 22 feet, you're gonna gain 4 feet of width in your lot, I think. So by the time you get over to the way I got it figured, you might only be about 2 feet in that one corner. That's just me doing Pacific High School math real quick. So,
but like I said, I scaled it all out, and that's the best I could come up with for that.
any other questions for Mr. Knight?
No.
Any more comments from the audience? Then we'll declare this public hearing closed. So we can go right into.
You can, just,
motion?
yes, and it doesn't even really need to be a motion, just call for a vote on BOA 2022-01.
All right.
We need a motion to define exactly what we're saying yes or no to, because, I mean, somebody
Well,
can make the motion.
you're voting on the variance that he's requested, so your motion can't really be any different than the application.
So if you state yes, you're giving him the right to do what he wants to do with it,
Yeah,
correct?
to vary the front yard setback from 25 feet to 22 feet at 2 points along the front
Yep.
elevation. Yeah.
Everybody good with that? Kim, you want to do a roll call vote, and we'll do it that way?
So is there a motion to approve the variance as requested?
You can do a motion if that makes you
I don't
feel
have
better.
to-
Sometimes no one makes a motion, and then we
Okay.
don't have a vote, so.
I will make the motion to approve the variance for the requested setbacks.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Ed, and a second, or motion by Jill and a second by Ed. We don't need a roll call vote, do we, for this?
You can raise your hands and see if
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Knight.
Thank you all.
Permit, get started. New business, 185-foot letter discussion, so.
Yeah, let me start that off. When Steve Myers was going through the Board of Adjustment chapter, looking for the different notice provisions, they were not real clear. He brought that to my attention, and I then went to Mr. Jones. And Bob, why don't you take it from here? The state law provisions, so on and so forth.
Yeah, the state law provision requires a public hearing, but there is no provision in state law that requires the mailing of individual notices to neighboring property owners within 185 feet. That's a function of the city's code, and it's really two different sections that work together. The Board of Adjustment section requires a notice and hearing, and then it you look to the general notice and hearing section of the code, and it says whenever the provisions of the code require notice and a hearing, that you send out these letters to everyone within 185 feet. Sometimes that becomes expensive, but on the other hand, it gives an opportunity to abutting property owners to find out that there's an issue they may want to come up and address the Board of Adjustment about. So staff, Steve and I really wanted to talk to you about whether or not you want to continue the practice of giving the 185-foot letter to the neighboring property owners before Board of Adjustment hearings, or whether we should consider amending the code to make that no longer necessary.
Thoughts?
Is that something that we do, or is that something that the aldermen take care of to amend?
Well, the alderman would actually have to pass an ordinance that revises this section so that the 185-foot letter is only required under certain circumstances, and the Board of Adjustment would not be one of those.
And I mean, I drove by the property, and what is there, 2 or 3 signs there with basically all the information on it? You know, I mean, you can check into, but,
Unless you're an
So-
out-of-town owner. If you own property there,
Right.
I'd rather see the people get notified.
yeah, and I mean, I guess that could affect too if you had a landlord or something that actually,
Right, own the property.
Doesn't live in the area, yeah.
Yeah, but the point I made in this discussion is, without notice to the adjacent landowners, and then let's just say, use tonight as an example, the board grants the variance, and then the neighbor says, what is this? How did this happen? And I would much rather, frankly, there be the notice provisions that we have used in the past still there. That person, of course, then gets formal notice of the hearing, they have an opportunity to comment, so forth. Yeah, it's true, it adds some cost, and it also adds some process and so forth. But,
How much cost could it really add?
I mean, right now, we send all those certified mail, and, I don't know in this instance just how many letters got sent, but it's common in the older parts of town, 10, 12, 15 letters within 185 foot of the property. Now, that the applicant pays that cost. We don't pay that. It's kind of a procedural item. If the board didn't feel it was that necessary and state law doesn't require it, then okay, that's, one argument. I still would rather that we stay with it, frankly,
I think it's
myself.
very important for us to be able to maintain that transparency, especially for the last step, for a yea or nay, for them to proceed with what they're trying to accomplish. I think we need to keep it in there.
let
We
me
had
ask
on
you,
the-
the way it is written now, it doesn't require it, so would the Board of Aldermen actually have to do an ordinance that would require that for our meetings?
Well, the way we've interpreted it from a staff level is that all notices of hearing require the 185-foot letter. So I don't think we really have any choice but unless we change it, we're going to continue giving the letter, and that's why we wanted to ask
Right,
you.
yeah, you'd
When
have
was
to.
that original ordinance signed?
Looks like it was originally adopted in 2003. It was amended in 2012, but I'm not sure exactly what the amendment was.
Okay, so hindsight 2020 here, that during that time period leading up to '03, planning and zoning and the aldermen had worked very diligently to update and upgrade all of our planning and zoning rules to be more comparable to our neighboring communities. So that's where that came about, and they worked very hard on that. They did a lot of information digging, and a lot of thought process went into it. So I think it's been very beneficial for us over the years, and I think it should stand.
Good.
And I believe that everybody is in agreement that we'll just keep it that way. Do we
Just
do a roll
last
call on
year,
this, or-
actually, we did amend this section last year to clarify the posting of the notice on the property, which is what you were talking about. And a lot of people rely on that as
Yeah.
well.
But like what Ed said, if you have someone that's a landlord or somebody out of an area, they're not going to see that notification. This would be the only other way that they'd know about it.
And we need to take no action, further
No.
action on that. than what
No, we
There's
just,
no
we
vote
just wanted
required here,
to
nothing?
hear what you had to say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one last thing. I would frankly like to see the code provision amended so it's more clear. When it comes to Board of Adjustment, what exactly is the process? And it'd be very simple. You just simply reference the 405045, I think is the code provision. That's very simple. I wouldn't necessarily want to carve that out in a separate ordinance. When and if we get to other text amendments, I might suggest we include it there just to make it clear in the Chapter 407 Board of Adjustment section.
Okay,
You don't have
anything-
any, Bob, you don't have any objection to that, do you?
No,
Yeah,
no,
'cause
I
it's-
don't.
It is a matter of interpretation now, and it's pretty clear between us, but still, make it clear, explicit, and there's no question about it.
Right,
That's always the best way.
yes. Any more discussion on that topic? Then moving on, old business, seeing none. Other business? Seeing none. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion-
Second.
Motion by Jill, second by Brian. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There we go.
Your findings in order. I
Yeah.
scratched out the question, I had the property owner's name on it also, but since he closed.
Right. So I gotta sign this, don't I?
Yes.
Wait.
Get there and
There you
pen
go.
there.
Yeah, it depends on how you got one.
Rob.
I left mine outside.